Happy Wednesday. This is another edition of Women Crush Wednesday during March, Women's History Month, which is a very important month for everyone. We are talking to Megan Sall today, who is the Assistant City Manager for the City of Wyoming. So you keep throwing in city, I mean, so many. Before I throw it to you and ask you some very important questions, I did want to read a few statistics that I dug up because I find this very interesting. Since we're talking about public sector, there are currently only 19% of women serving in the House of Representatives. So out of the whole, obviously only 19% are women. As of 2017, there are 6 women serving as governors, which I also found very interesting. And then there's 22 women currently serving in the Senate, and total in the overall history of the Senate, 51. What do you think about that?
Oh, well, you know, I think there's some room for improvement.
I feel like yes.
Yeah.
I feel like yes. So maybe talk a little bit about, because a lot of your career has been in public sector, and before we kind of jump into, you know, who you admire, you know, in history and such, talk a little bit about the need for women to work in public sector, or what you find so exhilarating about it.
Sure.
That's probably the right word, right? Sure. Exhilarating.
Yeah.
It feels so exhilarating.
Yeah, that's our describe their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area where we need women, plain and simple. And not because we just need to balance out the numbers. Mm-hmm. It's not because of that, but it's because women bring a unique skill set and unique mannerisms and unique way of looking at the world and looking at problems and solving problems that we just need. It's plain and simple. It's not about politics. It's not about sticking it to the man or whatever. I want to make sure that people know when we have these conversations, it's about bringing forward our best in every area and making sure that all the giftings that we've been gifted with can be used and applied again towards solving all these really critical problems that we see in our communities and in the world today.
Well, and just unique, different thought processes and different skill sets are brought to the table, so that's important. We were talking earlier about, the need for individuals, but, women specifically, in, just serving as like commissioners or, in other roles as it relates to the city. And we talked a little bit about how they can get involved, and a big part of it was just, go to the website, just ask the question.
Yeah, for sure. I think government seems scary to people at times. People wonder, what's the commitment? What am I getting myself involved in? Is it going to be fun? Those kinds of things, which are all legitimate questions, but there is so much need. We need people with good ideas, with new ideas, with a different way of seeing things. We're really fortunate in West Michigan to have a lot of great nonprofits, and I know that those are our roles and board seats that need to be filled as well. But your city government is really your closest form of government that affects you the most. And we really need people to step up and be willing to speak directly into those conversations and to affect their neighborhoods, quite frankly, and the people around them.
Mm-hmm. And you get a lot of joy out of working within the public sector, because that's been almost your entire career.
I do. There's a lot of us who are, I would say all of us are mission-driven people, right? We all have a mission in life. But local government is really about affecting residents.
Yeah.
It's about me affecting you if you live here in Grand Rapids. It's about making sure that streets are hopefully functioning somewhat properly. It's streets and sewers. It's
infrastructure.
Yeah,
it's all the stuff that works that you don't think about.
But it's also voting and elections, and it's parks and recreation programs and all sorts of things. And we really need people. Again, we need people to be speaking into those processes. Because as a local government administrator, I only know what I know.
Right.
And so obviously it's important for me to go out and ask people and ask the questions and get other perspectives, but I only have so much time in a day.
Right.
So that's also why we need people to come and be willing to share their voices and their stories and their experience.
So go get involved is really like what we're saying here. Now back to Women's History Month, which is my favorite, because I've learned so much. And we were talking about this too, how, when I asked you to be on here and I said, who's somebody that's influenced you in history, the sad thing is that there's the most obvious people that maybe come to mind, like Rosa Parks or Eleanor Roosevelt, but there's some other women that have played incredibly important roles in our history that just are not acknowledged in, even in our history books. So who has inspired you?
Sure. So I've always been interested in politics, elected government, things of that nature. I'm kind of in love with all of the first ladies. They all have interesting things about them. But even I think, I love going to First Ladies Luncheon here in town. And I love hearing about Betty Ford. And all the First Ladies have a very unique opportunity to have a platform that they didn't necessarily ask for, but they're given. And so then what do they do with that? And that's even something that I think about in my role, for you in your role. You know, we have platforms, whether you feel comfortable saying that or not, so then what do you do with it? How do you use your powers for good? For Betty, one thing that she did is just started talking openly and plainly about things, about women's health, about mental health, about different things, but
Addiction.
decided that it was an okay topic, and I'm going to normalize this, and I'm going to influence these social norms and make sure it's okay that people can talk about these things. And I think that's huge. You know, other First Ladies have talked about, they've talked about reading, they've talked about fitness, they've talked about all sorts of things. But I also think the roles that they are put in are so incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy for us to look at them and critique and be like, oh, you know, she didn't really show up on that day, or did you hear this random comment she made? But if we think about our own lives, if we were thrust into that limelight as well.
I would say so many things that were inappropriate all the time. I mean, I do now, and I'm not,
So even the courage to be able to be in that situation, to be able to support someone who has to make the decisions, because you know, a lot of those decisions get made at night, right?
Oh, yeah.
Afterwards, when they're relaxing or trying to relax after a day, and you know those first women hear all this.
Well, and your minds don't stop then either. I mean, going back to Betty Ford, she was a badass. She just plain and simple was a badass. I think she was the first person to say breast, like, out in public. I mean, because it was so taboo. Not that we don't all have them, but let's never talk about them. And, you know, when she got breast cancer, you know, she put one of the first mobile, breast units, mammography units out on the road. And she had no problem standing up for things. And one of the things I love about President Ford is that in no ways did he try and limit that. And she was very, very outspoken about women's rights, and and he told his staff, he plain out told his staff, is like, I don't control her. She does what she wants, and that's fine. I support her. And I think that's so interesting too, because that, the role has changed so much, throughout obviously history, the first woman, first lady's role. And, now they are really able to champion different things. And she was championing stuff that were the topics that you just did not talk about at that time. Now, who really influences you nowadays?
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and part of the question in West Michigan right now, I feel like, is who doesn't influence
Right.
me? We have so many incredible women in this community who are standing up, who are leading in their own right, who are saying, that's not really okay, or we don't do that anymore. For me, I've had a great opportunity to work and sit on boards with individuals like Birgit Close, Deb Bailey, Stacy Beeler, all sorts of really amazing women who are just getting it done in this town. But also, Kim, I think about you. I think about our friends like Kim McLaughlin and Lindsay Gleason, and just people who are giving of themselves, of their time. Quite often, there's a lot of days when we're running ragged, which maybe is not the best approach to it, but just giving of ourselves to this community and to the calling that is West Michigan. There's a lot of work to be done here. It's all good stuff. Maybe there's better choices that we could have made in the past that would have alleviated some of these things, but the fact of the matter is we're humans, and we make the best choices that we do with the information we have at the time. But people in this community who just go above and beyond every day.
I think that's one of the great things about West Michigan and Grand Rapids is that, the involvement, like everyone gets involved, and everyone does get out there and, and to your point, there are mistakes that have been made in the past, but I think one of the great things about this community is it picks itself up. It says, we screwed up. Now let's move forward and let's fix it. And, it's been really great to see, a lot of the changes to the more inclusion and more diversity but we need more of that. And I think that's, one of the reasons we're doing these videos is because we want to highlight these badass women in our communities, but also encourage others to really get involved. We are history and we're making history, but we can't do it unless, we really are working together. With that being said, what is one piece of advice that you have for professional women or women in general? I shouldn't just say professional women.
So one thing I've been thinking about lately is gifts.
Mhm.
And all of us, I think, are instilled with gifts of one kind or another. Some of us are business owners, right? And are shrewd business people. Some of us are connectors, and we're very good interpersonally. Some of us are, are, I don't know, clean the house really well, or
Right.
are great hosts or hostesses or things of that nature. So I think about, as much as I think we're getting better at supporting each other, especially as women, I think there's still times in our community.
Yeah.
And so one of my things I just want to encourage people, and I hate to frame it in a negative way, but to say, don't squash other people's gifts.
Yes.
Because really, if we think about the world and what the world needs now, which is a lot, I think if every human on the planet was able to unleash their gifts wholeheartedly onto the world, we would probably get a lot further. But the fact of the matter is there are some people that are held back. There are some people that are in situations where they're just trying to figure out how to survive today, and they don't have the opportunity or the luxury of being able to display their gifts. I even think about workplace situations where somebody comes along with a really amazing gift and someone else sees it and is like, I feel threatened by that gift, and so I'm going to hold that person back, or I'm going to restrict opportunity or something. How do we get to a place where we can just embrace everybody's gifts and invite people to come alongside, put them on display, give them opportunities to just enhance their gift even more? Because that's the way that I think we solve problems.
Yeah.
And we do community, and we get things done. And so it's a challenge that I've given to myself, when I'm in situations. How do I elevate the people around me? How do I also help people distill what their gift is? And then unleash it on the world, right? And let's see what happens.
When I think a lot of us are naturally competitive, which is great, but when that competition is at the expense of someone else, and I've caught myself doing it, I've done it before. I mean, I think we've all made mistakes in the past where, we haven't been supportive of, other women or other people, or we've been judgmental. And that's something that, I know I work to fight every single day, and that is most definitely a weakness of mine, and I think that you said that very well. Don't squash other people's gifts. I mean, because everybody has unique gifts that you yourself do not possess, and so why not have them alongside of you? Because that's just going to strengthen you as a whole, anyways. That's really good advice. That's really great advice. So, well, thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope that one of the things you take away from this is supporting other women, as well as getting involved in the public sector, and reaching out to those and mentoring other people. I think that we all have things that we can do better, and I think that there's other women that we should be working alongside of. In general as a whole, because that's just going to make our community stronger, and that's just going to make us stronger. So thanks again for joining us at Women Crush Wednesday. Megan Sall, she's amazing. Be sure to go to our YouTube page as well, and you can watch some of our former episodes.